TV's Rob is unwoke. TV's Rob is unwoke.
He's unwoke.
Welcome to it. It is TV's Rob is unwoke. I am your very unhumble host, TV's Rob, and I hope that you all had a wonderful Christmas. It may very well be the last holiday you ever have, period. Why? Well, because the douchebag of the year, 2 years running now, is at it again. That's right. He had us canceling all of our holidays last year and has done everything possible to keep the trend going this year, but with far less success. Who is that? Dr. Anthony Fauci, who just before Christmas was saying the only people who could celebrate are the vaccinated. Now he says, cancel New Year's. Because although we're a couple days removed from Christmas, he says hospitals are now overrun with unvaccinated people who are obviously dying from COVID.
I do wonder, we are approaching New Year's Eve at the end of this week. A lot of people have got events and gatherings planned. And I know you said it's okay to be with friends and family if you're vaccinated and boosted. But what is your advice to people about larger settings for New Year's parties?
Caitlin, I would stay away from that. I mean, I have been telling people consistently that if you're vaccinated and boosted and you have a family setting in the home with family and relatives, but when you're talking about a New Year's Eve party, we have 30, 40, 50 people celebrating. You do not know the status of their vaccination. I would recommend strongly stay away from that this year. There will be other years to do that, but not this year.
His line at the end I absolutely love. There will be other years to celebrate. Well, not if you, Fauci, and the rest of the idiots in the government have their way. America messed up royally in 2020 by allowing shutdowns and mandates become the norm. And the Biden administration, as well as this failure of a doctor, will stop at nothing to try to keep as much power as they can from you, the people. This isn't about public health. Now, it may have been for a very short time, but it's since moved into being about power and control. And that's what they want. They want to dominate you any way that they can. And they're using COVID to do it. Now, to give you a little personal perspective, when the COVID pandemic started last year, corporations moved to a work-from-home model for its employees. Well, my job isn't able to be done remotely for the most part. I had to go to work every day. I had to be out in the world on a daily basis throughout this entire pandemic. For the most part, I have ignored all of the mask mandates and requirements. I have had coworkers and members of their family come down with COVID that I was in close contact with. And yet somehow I didn't miss a single day of work because of an illness. I still haven't missed a single day of work because of illness. And here we are, 654-ish days later, and I have somehow still not come down with the deadliest virus ever. Think about that. 654-ish days of 14 days to flatten the curve. So, are we really going to listen to Dr. Anthony Fauci? If your answer is something other than no, you are listening to the wrong podcast, and you should probably GTFO right now. But that's not all the COVID talk. Oh, no. We have more COVID talk. And just to stop down for a minute, oh my goodness. Look, this is not my bag, but when you see this stuff just day in and day out, it just drives you crazy. So before you know it, you just start taking notes and you start downloading things and you start editing. And before you know it, you're doing this. You're sitting at a microphone at night, talking to yourself because this stuff is just maddening. Well, the newly authorized COVID pills are already under scrutiny. Medical experts warn of mixing new COVID-19 pills and other meds. The FDA recently authorized antiviral pills from Pfizer and Merck, and the at-home treatments have been touted as game changers in the fight against the coronavirus. But NBC News reports medical experts warn the pills will need to be carefully monitored by doctors and pharmacists. The medications include, but are not limited to, blood thinners, anti-seizure medications, drugs for irregular heart rhythms, high blood pressure, and high cholesterol, antidepressants and anti-anxiety medications, immunosuppressants, steroids, including inhalers, HIV treatments, and erectile dysfunction medications. Some of these potential interactions are not trivial, and some pairings may be avoided altogether, said Peter Anderson, a professor of pharmaceutical sciences at the University of Colorado and Schett's Medical Campus. Some are probably easily managed, but some we're going to have to be very careful about. Now, Merck's pill isn't authorized for children because it could interfere with bone growth and isn't recommended for pregnant women because of the potential for birth defects. Now, take all of that information in. I know I hit you with it pretty quickly. But think about this. If you're taking blood thinners, anti-seizure medication, drugs for irregular heart rhythms, high blood pressure and high cholesterol, antidepressants, anti-anxiety meds, immunosuppressants, steroids, HIV treatments, and if you're popping the little blue pill to get your wee-wee up, you probably shouldn't be taking this pill. Okay, but where were all of those warnings for the COVID vaccine? In fact, if they were to make a commercial for this new medication, we would be talking about the name of it, what it helps with, and then the next 30 to 45 seconds would be filled with the things not to take with it.
The COVID-19 pandemic has affected us all. Loved ones have been lost. Millions have gotten sick and weren't able to get the treatment they needed because of overcrowding in hospitals. Now there's a new way to treat mild to moderate coronavirus disease for people over 12, and that's with Paxlovid. Paxlovid's a new tablet from Pfizer designed to treat patients over the age of 12 who are experiencing mild to moderate COVID-19 with positive results of direct SARS-CoV testing and who are at high risk for progression to severe COVID-19, including hospitalization or death. Paxlovid's available by prescription only and should be initiated as soon as possible after diagnosis of COVID-19 and within 5 days of symptom onset. Possible side effects of Paxlovid include impaired sense of taste, diarrhea, high blood pressure, and muscle aches. Using Paxlovid at the same time as certain other drugs may result in potentially significant drug interactions, so consult with your doctor. Using Paxlovid in people with uncontrolled or undiagnosed HIV-1 infection may lead to HIV-1 drug resistance. Do not take Paxlovid if you're taking blood thinners, anti-seizure medications, drugs for irregular heart rhythms, high blood pressure and high cholesterol, antidepressants and anti-anxiety medications, immunosuppressants, steroids including inhalers, HIV treatments, and erectile dysfunction medications. Now there's a way to get your life back. Ask your doctor to see if Paxlovid is right for you. Paxlovid by Pfizer, because we don't give a damn if you live or die, just so long as our stock prices rise.
We got nothing when it comes to this vaccine that really isn't a vaccine. And also leads me to wonder, is this now a campaign put together by the likes of Moderna and Johnson & Johnson because they don't have their own version of the pill? That's where we're at right now. We have to question, oh, where is this coming from? What is this person doing? Why are we saying this? Why are they saying that? We can't take anything at face value. So the moral of the story here is do your own damn research and come up with the best solution that works for you. Insane. Just absolutely insane. And there's just the tip of the iceberg for this episode of TV's Rob is Unwoke. I'm TV's Rob. More coming up. Hey, TV's Rob here. If you haven't heard about Anchor by Spotify, it's the easiest way to make a podcast with everything you need all in one place. Let me explain. Anchor has tools that allow you to record and edit your podcast right from your phone or computer. When hosting on Anchor, you can distribute your podcast far and wide on listening platforms like Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and more. It's everything you need to make a podcast all in one place. And best of all, Anchor is totally free. And now there's a new video option. So if you really want to get into that, Anchor is the place to go. If you start a podcast using Anchor by Spotify, I'll even be your first guest. Download the Anchor app or go to anchor.fm to get started. Alrighty, welcome back to it. It is TV's Rob is Unwoke. I am TV's Rob, and long and short of everything I was just talking about in the previous segment, Dr. Fauci needs to know his role and shut his mouth. Plain and simple. But moving on from COVID, moving on from Fauci, now I get to talk about the train wreck, the human train wreck that is Huma Abedin. You know her. You might remember her. She was Hillary Clinton's campaign lackey for all those years. And she was also the woman who married that Weiner guy. And by that Weiner guy, I mean Anthony Weiner, the disgraced congressman. Well, she is out there in the press. She is letting people know just how hard her life has been since the fall from grace of Weiner. Of course, I mean, life has been hard for her since, Hillary Clinton didn't win in 2016 and didn't run in 2020. I mean, what is she doing with herself? Well, apparently she wrote a book and now she is out peddling it. And of course, she goes to CNN and talks about her struggle and said that the final straw for her marriage came when the New York Post published a photo on its front page of her husband, disgraced Congressman Anthony Weiner, sexting while laying in bed with their young son. She said, I did finally reach my breaking point because that was the point where for so long, Dana, I was saying, I don't understand. I don't understand. Why can't you just knock it off? She told host Dana Bash during an interview Sunday on CNN's State of the Union. And this was my final straw, Abedin said. Abedin, who was working on Clinton's presidential run at the time, also acknowledged that the incident prompted the Administration for Children's Services to launch an investigation into whether she was a fit parent for leaving her then 3-year-old son, Jordan, with the Weiner man. Here's a clip from that interview.
Child Services got involved, and you were the subject of a Child Services investigation, both of you. I can't even imagine what that was like. You were questioned about whether you were a fit parent for leaving him, your son, with your husband.
I was, and it was one of the hardest things I had to endure. And as I share in the book, I mean, the defiance that sort of I found that lived within me, this notion that I recall the conversation I was asked, do you think you would have had a better assessment of the conditions if you were a more present parent? And I was one of those working mothers that constantly felt torn between leaving for a campaign trip and taking care of my child. And I think a lot of working mothers can relate to what that feels like. It was one of the hardest things that I had to endure in those closing days of the campaign. And I just, I share a story of sitting by the front door, not wanting to answer it because I was scared of what was on the other side, angry about what was potentially on the other side.
Oh, such a struggle, such a plight. Oh, my goodness. Do you feel sorry for her now? Do you feel sorry for her yet? Maybe you should. She's saying it was one of the hardest things I had to endure. I was asked, do you think you would have had a better assessment of the conditions if you were more present as a parent? Well, yeah, probably. And of course, she's out there because she's got a book, doing everything she can to garner sympathy. She described herself as constantly feeling torn between leaving for the campaign trail and staying home to take care of their son, adding that, I think a lot of working mothers can relate to what that feels like. Yeah, but most working mothers wouldn't leave their kid with a pedophile like Weiner? Most of them. I'm sure some do, but most of them wouldn't. At least knowingly. She went on to say, it was one of the hardest things that I had to endure in those closing days of the campaign. Abedin recounted her feelings about Weiner's raunchy behavior in her memoir. Now, in the same interview, Abedin said she managed to weather the previous sexting scandals involving her husband, often under the pseudonym Carlos Danger, and his resignation from Congress in 2011 and his subsequent disastrous run for mayor of New York in 2013. But the revelation in 2016 by the Post of the photo of Weiner, a one-time rising political star in the Democratic Party, sexting a young North Carolina teen girl, forced her to confront the realities of her marriage with him. It took 5 freaking years? Really? She told Dana Bash she was judged big time. I just had to go through all of this on the front page of the newspaper, but certainly many women as men, because I don't think it's only women, she said, of the development that led to her breaking point. She is absolutely ridiculous. And think about this. She didn't even file for divorce from this guy until 2017. Geez. I mean, this woman, how she could write a memoir and go out there and try to play the, oh, woe is me sympathy card is absolutely ridiculous. And I certainly hope nobody out there is buying it. Both the book and her act. It's complete total BS. You know, my favorite line from this story was the, why can't you just knock it off line? It's funny how the truth seems to just come out in the most innocuous ways. She obviously knew what her husband was up to, what he was into, and yet she did absolutely nothing about it, and even let their toddler be around him. Like Weiner, she should be a registered sex offender as well, as she went along with what her Weiner was doing the entire time. A wife knows. Trust me, a wife knows. You get absolutely zero sympathy here, Huma. You obviously thought the entire time that being among the elites made you invincible to the commoner system of law and order. You know, the law and order system for us unwashed masses. Obviously, you and Weiner were not high enough on the list to avoid consequences. In my opinion, children's services, yeah, they should have come and they should have taken that child away, plain and simple. But they probably feared being added to that mile-long Clinton death list. Just a hunch. There's a lot more to come, but first I want to talk about protein bars for a moment. We've all seen them and most likely have tried a few in our goals of eating healthier and losing weight. But what's the biggest problem with all of them? Well, basically, they all taste like crap. They're hard to chew, taste awful, and don't provide any type of satisfaction. I'm happy to say that there is one protein bar out there that isn't anything like the others, and that is Built Bar. Built Bar is healthier than your favorite protein bar, if you have one. Bars are low calorie, low sugar, high protein, high fiber, great for keto diet, lose or maintain weight while indulging in a delicious treat that tastes like a candy bar. Each bar contains only 110 to 160 calories, 16 to 20 grams of protein, and 3 to 5 net carbs. Enjoy the healthiest thing that you'll do today. When you eat a Built Bar, you feel better about yourself because healthy has never been this delicious. Built Bar is better tasting than your favorite candy bar. Candy bars have not evolved in over 100 years. Now they have with Built Bar. There's 18 different flavors to choose from, including cookies and cream, strawberry, peanut butter, and mint brownie. Go to Built.com and use the promo code TVsRob at checkout to get 10% off your next order. Use promo code TVsRob for 10% off at Built.com.
He's on woke.
Oh my God, it's just such an unbelievable moment.
Brandon, you also told me, as you can hear the chants from the crowd, let's go, Brandon. Brandon, you told me you were going to kind of hang back those first 2 stages and just watch and learn. What did you learn that helped you there in those closing laps?
Oh my God, it was learning how each line didn't stay to one. Everything shifted top to bottom so much that it was kind of like, okay, let's just stay patient where we're at and hope for the best.
Well, I'm going to file this under I knew this was coming somehow. For the past few months, Brandon Brown, the driver who was the subject of the now infamous "Let's Go Brandon" phrase, was able to fly under the radar. Probably because the next day at Talladega Superspeedway, Bubba Wallace got his first Cup Series win thanks to rain, and the media decided to go with the black driver, winning story instead. But not any longer. Here we are a couple of months removed, and all of a sudden Brandon Brown has found the spotlight. Or more or less, the media decided to shift the spotlight onto him to bring a guy who's not otherwise political into the political fray, thus probably ruining him. But he's been getting quite a bit of attention as of late. An op-ed in Newsweek written by Brown basically made the case that he is being silenced after his big triumph because of sponsors. The New York Times also caught up with Brandon, and we all know how that paper is just filled with proper journalism and ethics. Every employee there, just top notch, right? The title of their story was, Brandon just wants to drive his race car. Now he's saying that he has had a hard time finding corporate sponsors following the chant going viral. It got extremely difficult for us. If you're a national corporation, that means you sell to all consumers. And unfortunately, when you get dragged into the political arena, people want you to take a side, Brown told the Sports Business Journal in a recent interview. It's hard for a brand to want to attach to somebody who might be kind of divisive in their consumer base. If I'm going to divide Coca-Cola, why would they want to talk to me? Well, you wouldn't be dividing Coca-Cola, Brandon. Coca-Cola has already divided themselves. But he went on to say, so the short answer is it's been tough to connect with partnerships just because it's kind of viewed as a ticking time bomb. What is he doing to choose or say, and how would that affect our consumer base? It's too much of a risk. I understand it on their side, but it's made it really hard to tie everything down. Well, if he's having a hard time getting sponsorship, I stand by my original thought on that and my solution for that problem. Because, like I said, file this in, I knew this was coming. Any company out there making money on selling merchandise, socks, shirts, things like that, with Let's Go Brandon on it. And yes, I'm looking at you, Glenn Beck, need to step up and help keep Brandon on the track. Look, Daytona's just a couple months away. February 19th for the Xfinity guys, which is the series he drives in. They'll be taken to the track in Daytona. I would love to see a Blaze Media car on the track. I've already seen a Fox Nation one, so why not a Blaze Media? Can you imagine Glenn Beck's face on the hood one week, Mark Levin's face on the hood another week, Pat Gray's face on the hood another week? Hell, even Jeffy Fisher chewing the fat right there on the hood. Now that would be a scary looking race car, and he'd probably get his second career win with Jeffy's face on the hood. Just a thought. I mean, that's $1 million idea, and I'm giving it to you for free. So enjoy it. Now, of course, that leads me into the clips of the week. Yes, the clips of the week. Media pundits spent much of Christmas weekend berating a father who yelled, he didn't really yell it, "Let's go Brandon," at President Biden on Christmas Eve. Biden and his idiot doctor wife, First Lady Jill, took part in a Santa Tracker event with NORAD officials on Friday to speak with callers tracking Santa Claus for Christmas. One caller, who identified as Jared from Oregon, ended his family's call by saying, "Let's go Brandon," a phrase usually intended as disparagement towards the president. Here's the audio from that call.
Yeah, I hope you guys have a wonderful Christmas as well. Merry Christmas, and let's go Brandon.
Let's go Brandon, I agree.
So yeah, he gets on the phone with the president and he says, "Let's go Brandon." Big deal. And of course, the information about him has already been out there. And of course, people are trying to get him canceled and everybody's losing their effing minds over it. Why? I don't know. It's ridiculous, okay? Honestly, the fact that he said, "Let's go Brandon," and not F Joe Biden, not F you, Joe. I mean, the guy should be given credit where credit is due, okay? Because I'm thinking I wouldn't have that restraint. Of course, I wouldn't be on the phone with Joe Biden anyways. But nonetheless, the mainstream media and journalists all over have since targeted the phrase as vulgar and vitriol, going so far as to compare people who use the phrase to ISIS sympathizers. That's right. If you say, let's go, Brandon, you're a terrorist. You're a domestic terrorist. You need to be locked up. And they need to throw away the key. You need to be treated like those people from 1-6 who are still in jail for that. And of course, the pattern continued after reporters identified the man as Jared Schmeck, a former Oregon police officer who has since insisted that the phrase was made in a joking manner, which it was. I mean, come on. And how do you know his son's not named Brandon? Seriously, how do you know his son's not named Brandon? And maybe he was just saying, let's go Brandon to his son. Obviously, that's not really the case, but you get what I'm getting at here. Some outlets, however, appeared to disagree, with titles like NBC's Parent Uses Right-Wing Slur During Biden Call with NORAD Santa Tracker, and ABC's Father Uses Vulgar Insult During Holiday Call with President Joe Biden. Slate even referred to the phrase as a right-wing slur in describing the situation, writing, "What has become a traditional White House holiday call with children tracking Santa Claus took an awkward turn this year when one father used the opportunity to insult the president using a slur that has become popular in right-wing circles." CNN White House correspondent Jeremy Diamond tweeted, "If you think it's appropriate to tell someone, anyone really, to go F themselves after they gave your kids the time of day on Christmas Eve, it says a lot more about your personal character than anything else. That is all." Senior reporter Edward Isaac Dover followed up, writing, "Consider the mentality here of the father whose child is excited to talk about Santa Claus and then also gets to talk to the president and first lady. But he waits out the end of the call to sneak in a cutesy way of flipping off the president on Christmas Eve." During a segment on CNN, Ron Brownstein of The Atlantic went as far as to claim the phrase was a form of insurrection.
The president is trying to be nice to kids. He doesn't really have to do this. They were very pleasant. What does it tell you that somebody is rude like that and disrespects the office of the president to his face about the political climate in this country?
Yeah, look, it's ungracious, it's juvenile, it's reprehensible by the father. But I don't think it's fundamentally about incivility. I think it is fundamentally about insurrection.
Fundamentally about insurrection. No, dickweed. It's a father letting the president know that he is not happy with what is going on in the country right now. That's what the "let's go Brandon" phrase has been all about this entire time. Letting Biden and other people know in a polite way that we're not happy with what's going on. We're not happy with the inflation. We're not happy with the draconian control that they're trying to impose on us. We're not happy with the shelves being empty, the supply chain crisis, the border, anything that Biden is doing, the Build Back Better plan, the trillions of dollars of spending that they want to do to institute a socialist regime change in America. All of that. We're not happy right now, and that's the only way that we could really say it in a nice, PC kind of way. It's not about insurrection, but it is about flipping the middle finger to Joe Biden. And look, I have run talk shows on radio for many years. And I've had to serve as the call screener, the guy who picks up the phone whenever you call. Guess what? Callers sometimes slip through the cracks. They mislead you, and they get on the air. But we have technology that allows us on the radio show side get the last word, get the last laugh, because we could always dump it. We can always cut you off and make sure that whatever you said that we don't like never gets heard. That obviously didn't happen here, which thank goodness it didn't, because that was too great. But all of these media outlets who are losing their minds over this, they are missing the big point. They are missing the big takeaway, the main takeaway from the whole thing. And that simply is brain dead Joe Biden and his idiot doctor wife, Jill, completely missed what the guy was saying and played right into it. They played along with it. You got the president of the United States to say, Let's Go Brandon for everyone to hear. This guy, this father from Oregon, Mr. Jared Schmeck, you, sir, are a national hero. Well, that is going to do it for this episode of TV's Rob is Unwoke. I truly appreciate you coming along and listening to the show. I hope you have enjoyed it. Before I go, I would like to pass along my condolences to the family of John Madden, who we lost unexpectedly this week. I'm going to dive a little deeper into Madden in the next episode because he is a man who has lived such an interesting life. Also, I'm sure you've heard that former Senator from Nevada, Harry Reid, also passed away this week, but I can't say I'm mourning that loss. Usually, deaths of well-known people happen in threes, so I'm going to need someone to go check on Betty White to make sure we don't lose her before her 100th birthday. If you could do that, that'd be great. Also, if you would, please go to Apple Podcasts and leave a 5-star rating and a review saying how wonderful and amazing the show is. It's okay if you lie. I won't tell anyone. Also, the show is available on YouTube. You can find it by searching TV's Rob is Unwoke or click the link in the episode description. The new official website is up and running as well. You can check that out by going to unwokepod.com. There you can sign up for updates and reach out to me directly. Don't forget, Built Bar is giving listeners 10% off at built.com with promo code TVsRob at checkout. If you want to get in on the action and make your mark on the show, go to anchor.fm/TVsRobIsUnwoke and leave a voice message. Also, if you want to come on the show and talk about something that's really pissing you off, send me a message on Twitter at TVsRobOfficial. Reach out to me on the website, unwokepod.com. There's a number of ways you can reach me. Not that hard to find. Special thanks to my wife and lovely producer, Nikki. You can follow her on Twitter at DFW Radio Girly. And of course, the executive producer of TV's Rob is Unwoke, the derpy Cat Ryoga. You can see what he's up to on Twitter as well, at Cat Ryoga. I'm TV's Rob. This is TV's Rob is Unwoke. I'll catch you next time.